So welcome to this weekly recap. We're going to just recap on some of the week's trades and what to sort of look out for in the coming week. So the first pair that we're dealing with is the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. And as you can see, we've broken out of a resistance point here, and we look like we're setting up now for a move here where we've got consolidation. Could also be a flag pattern. This has been a pretty good week and a half. I mean, if you had gotten in here early on one of these candles, which are discussed in the one of the courses which I recommend, which is one of the best on the market for trading Forex, you would have seen this move and you would have had a number of opportunities here already going back. I mean, throughout this chart, you would have found the opportunity. So if we look at it on a 3-day, the only thing is on a 3-day we see we've got these tweezer tops. So this is a little bit cause for concern, because actually if you take that candle by itself there, we've got a shooting star, and then we have tweezer top there. So we'll just have to wait and see if we break through the support area, or if we break above this resistance area. So at the moment, depending on your strategy, it's either neutral if you're looking to trade swing trading on the dailies, but if you're going to go on the intraday, you might find a few opportunities there. We now head off to the Australian dollar, US dollar. We see that the Australian dollar here again has risen in value. Now there could be a number of reasons for this. One of the reasons is that with the crisis going on in Korea, we know that investors during times of war and crisis often flock and flood to the gold markets, and one of the primary exports of the Australian dollar is gold. They're one of the largest, probably in the top 5 gold suppliers in the world. So as you can see, we have this rally ever since we've had this sort of war talk with Korea. So really good moves here. I mean, if you had been following the course recommendations that I had given, if you signed up to my newsletter, you would have found, if you had gone through that course, that all the setups were here. I mean, here's a classic one here that we discussed in the course. At the moment, I mean, if we look at it daily and we look at again, we see the same as what we saw in Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. We have these long wicks on top, which tells us there's a bit of selling pressure. So at the moment, I'm pretty neutral on that, unless, my trading style will be different from everyone else's. But I like to trade on breakouts or breakdowns. We now head off to the Euro Australian dollar, and there's not much I see here really happening, other than we're moving in this sideways market, and depending on which time frame you use, there could be a long-term triangle pattern. So I mean, there's not much action that we're seeing right there. If we go into the 4-hour chart, there were a few nice setups in the week, but pretty neutral in terms of either waiting for a breakout. Yeah, we see with the Euro Canadian dollar, and we actually see some selling off here. So it might be a good time to think of going short if you've been long. We are also at a support level here, so as mentioned earlier, we usually wait for the support lines to be broken. We go to the Euro GBP, so we see the Euro having increased, but now we're seeing some selling pressure. I think this pair will sell off. We'll just have to wait for confirmation. If we look at a 3-day chart, we can see the signals were stronger. If you had entered here, you'll know that in the course which I recommend, that this is a classic chart pattern, which would have given you enough time to go short. And also, I like this pattern from a shorting perspective. So in terms of going long, I think if you were long, you would want to cover your shorts at the moment. And I think this could be a turning point for the euro, because the pound has been increasing in value. So we head off now to the Euro Japanese yen, and we can see here we've sort of reached a double top, and we'll have to see what happens here in terms of weakness, but we're sitting on one of the major moving averages, and so pretty neutral until something either breaks above or breaks below. If it does break below this point, you could sort of look for this level over here, the next support level, and if that then broke, you would then look for the next one, which would either be about there, or you would look for a short opportunity to go there. So as you can see, I mean, we've been in pretty much in an uptrend for a while now. So now we go to the Euro New Zealand dollar, and again, I mean, this is a pretty strong sell signal that we see coming up here. We want to wait for confirmation before we take advantage of that selling opportunity. Let's look at the 3-day chart. The minute you start seeing these tweezer tops, as they're known in the equities market, you want to sort of take note what's going on there. So Euro US dollar, the euro is looking pretty good here. Yeah, we have a little bit of when I see these dojis after a sort of or spinning tops after a long or strong buy signal, that's to be expected, because buyers coming into the market, there's a little bit of apprehension in the market. From a 3-day, we see a little bit of selling pressure here, which is evident here in this spinning top. But other than that, the euro has made really good gains against the dollar. Obviously, in times of war, because people, you've got your main dollar, which is your reserve currency of the world. If the US is going to go to war or is in war talk with another country, then investors sell their dollars, rush to gold, which is why we saw the Australian dollar having rallied. And then obviously the euro, which is not part of that, they will have benefited from that as well. So I don't know what the economic reports have been. I haven't been following those, but so we're just looking at this from a technical perspective. So we can see here from the 4-hour chart, this is a 4-hour chart now. If you were a very short-term swing trader, you would have seen a lot of these moves from that course which I recommended. Right now we are sort of forming this little flag pattern, and I usually like to wait for solid confirmation. So, you know, if you miss this move at the moment, you really want to wait for confirmation. Euro, Australian dollar. So we've seen a sharp sell-off with the pound, and this is a pretty good candle pattern in terms of buying. That's not looking too bad, and we see that there is buying pressure because we have the wicks at the bottom. So that's looking pretty good. The same thing here, GBP Canadian dollar. This is a nice classic pattern that we're seeing, which could be, I mean, we haven't quite hit the support level there, but that seems to be holding. Maybe not a time to go long yet, but it looks like this could be sort of turning. So, you know, we want to just wait for the confirmation. And now we go to the British pound, Swiss franc. So we've got some sideways consolidation movement on the 3-day pattern. Again, another pattern where you really want to wait for confirmation. So from the dailies and 3 days, you know, we don't have much buying pressure. For me, this is a sort of a neutral pattern. You know, there's millions of ways people like to trade, but from a technical standpoint, you know, I want to wait for, you know, confirmation in either direction. I mean, this would have seemed like a good, perhaps, buying opportunity. And yes, each low has been slightly higher. This last one is slightly lower than the previous. We have indecision here on quite a major moving average. So we want to wait for that confirmation, whether you want to go long or short. Again, another one with the GBP yen. The British pound has made some stronger movement against the other currencies, and we'll see when we get to the US dollar. So we can see here that we are making higher lows, which is an indication that we are moving higher. We're getting to the main moving averages here, so we have passed the 200 moving average. So we just want to wait for confirmation there, and on a 3-day you can see higher we've got a low there, higher low, higher low, higher low. So we are moving higher, but as usual, we want to wait for confirmation. So yeah, this is a pretty good move with the GBP New Zealand dollar. This is a very strong buy move that we see happening here. So against the New Zealand dollar, we see that it's strengthened quite a bit. If you were a swing trader and you had gone through the Forex Apprentice Academy, you would have seen that. You would have caught this move, which would have been a really good move, and you wouldn't have been whipsawed, and you would have been out over here, and this would have been another entry point over here. So you know, you would have gotten in a few times into the market. Here's another move. You would have been whipsawed a little bit here, but you would have caught these moves going back in March and sold off in June. So yeah, we've got the GBP USD. So if you didn't get in here, you might have lost and missed out on these moves. You can see that there's selling pressure on top here, just through to the wick. It's not an you know, a scenario for you to be concerned about. It's just that if you were already long this pair, you know, maybe you want to be taking some profits off the table, or you want to just be covering your position, you know, moving your stops up a little bit. Let's have a look on a 3-day chart. 3-day chart is still looking pretty good. You know, you could enter this position. Let's go to a 4-hour chart. So on the 4-hour chart, you can see this is where we're seeing those wicks. So you know, you just want to wait for the a good buying opportunity. So if you had been gone through the Forex Apprentice program, you would have seen that all these entries are clearly defined as major entry patterns, and that would have helped you gotten into the market a lot faster and a lot smoother. So we are on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. As you can see here, we've been in a downtrend, short-term downtrend. Let's just go back further. Again, we want to really wait for confirmation for either going long or going short. It's sort of in this period here, which is sort of, you can call it a slight small channel. And at the moment, I mean, if you had sold short based on the entry and exit positions covered in the program which I mentioned, you would have gotten in over here, and you would have made some really good healthy profits from this area to this area. So a little bit choppy at the moment. Let's go to the US. Let's go to the New Zealand dollar and the Japanese yen. So again, same sort of scenario. We have this red candle here. We had a lot of selling pressure here, so we just want to wait and see, you know, do we have confirmation to continue to go short, or is this the sort of end of a line? You can see here that it also forms part of a resistance pattern. So if we draw on our chart and we say that there was a resistance point over here, it's now that resistance has formed support. So the New Zealand US dollar, we can see here that we found support, we're starting to move up, got a slight bit of resistance. 3-day chart, so a little bit of spinning tops indecision at this point in time. It's to be expected because we had quite a sharp sell-off. Let's look at a 4-hour. So 4-hour is not looking too good. Let's look at a 2-hour. So yeah, I mean, we've got the selling pressure going off over there. So again, you just want to make sure that you know, if you had gotten in here long, you would have maybe considered moving up your stops or exiting your position. You know, once we start seeing this, I think we might either find a short-term decline, and then either it will pick up or it will continue to be sold off short. So let's have a look. So Canadian dollar, US dollar, US dollar, Canadian dollar. So we see that, if you had been following the recommendations in the Forex Apprentice Academy course, you would have seen that you would have had really good selling short opportunities and even going long opportunities here. And at the moment, we've had a really sharp sell-off in the US dollar. This is to be expected. When you have a really sharp decline, that the buyers step in. So now it's just a point, are we going to see that this the US dollar rallies a little bit before selling short? We'll have to see what happens there. So as you can see here, we've got the buying pressure here. We can see that by the tail wick. So we can see a strong sell-off, and this would have been a really good opportunity. The 3-day chart is a really good opportunity to look, for longer term trends. You're going to be in your positions for a lot longer, whereas you might, depending on your trading style, you might get whipsawed in and out of the market a little bit with the daily chart. But there's a trade-off for trading the 4-hour compared to the dailies, etc, etc. So 4-hour would have given you some good signals. Let's have a look at the 2-hour chart. So the 2-hour chart, going back in September, would have given you also really good entries in terms of selling short. Let's look at the US dollar CHF again. So we can see, the trend with the US dollar is that it's declining against other currencies, as I explained, as investors are selling their reserve currency, which is the US dollar, because of war affects the currency. They're going to the safe havens. The Swiss franc is a safe haven for investors, and we can see there that the dollar had sold off. We are reaching a support level here, and we can see the indecision here with the spinning top. So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, we could be in a channel here as well. You can see those points there. So again, now we are on the US dollar Japanese yen. We can see that we had a strong sell-off. We now hit this sort of what they call a hammer, and we are now waiting to see, will price rally. But we can see that since the US has been sort of with their war talk with Korea, we've had this sharp decline, and now we look at the US dollar South African rand, and what we see going on here is we see that the US dollar, that the South African rand, this is a really bullish signal in terms of strength in the market. On a 3-day, not so much. We do find that's almost like a could be seen as a hammer, could be seen as a hanging man, but a hanging man would be seen at the top of the market. So this is more of a hammer, and also, I mean, some might say that could be a dragonfly doji, but I think that's more of a hammer. And we can see that the South African rand there is increasing in value. So we just want to wait and see. The US dollars are decreasing over here, and now we see that the US dollar over at this point is starting to strengthen. So we want to see if this continues. If not, let's have a look at the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart, we're at a main moving average. Let's go to the 2-hour chart. So the 2-hour chart is showing us some buying opportunity. So, that's it for this week in terms of the market recap from a technical perspective. The only thing here with the US dollar, South African rand, we see this rally in the dollar, but again we see these wicks here, which showing us that there is selling pressure going on. So from a daily, it's not looking too bad. Let's look at a 1-hour. 1 hour, we've seen sort of the rallies going on here, but again we see that little bit of selling pressure, so we just want to wait and see when is the correct time to enter the market. So that's it for this recap for the week.